Hi everyone, it's Viktor speaking, and I'm here today with Donny. And this is the period of time when we're gonna start discussing what exactly the next year is bringing for us. So we decided to do a video for you on the upcoming eclipses in 2021. You might be aware that eclipses are always like 3-5 times stronger than a normal full moon or new moon. We also call them as a full moon or new moon on steroids. So definitely they are going to be impacting us quite a lot. How are you doing, Donny?
I'm good. I'm actually pretty stoked that we'll have less eclipses for 2021.
Yes, we're only gonna have like 4. This year we had 6, but it doesn't mean that they are not gonna be eventful, right?
Mm.
Yeah, if you would like, by the way, a reading with us, then we're gonna put the link below, and then just drop us an email or whatever you wish, and then we can check your personal chart as well. So what we did for you today, we brought the day of the eclipses. We started them on 0 degree of Aries rising sign, because when you work with mundane astrology is something which is describing the possible events for the world. And then we're going to be discussing the very first solar return. So let me just, sorry, not solar return, the very first solar eclipse, which I'm going to share my chart. And so that's going to be June the 10th, 2021.
Yeah, the first solar eclipse. It's an annular one, so it won't be as potent as a total.
Mm-hmm. You want to try and then start talking about it?
Yeah, I mean, when I see this particular annular solar eclipse on 10th of June 2021 at 19 degree 47 of Gemini, I think the main aspect here is Mercury being out of bounds. Conjunct the new moon. It's very close to sun and moon. And they're all squaring Neptune and Pisces.
That's right.
So there's going to be this kind of smoke and mirrors. We might be probably still in a dream or twilight zone, Neptune of sorts. I think it's kind of like we're just bringing forward that end of 2020 energy, because we end 2020 with Neptune squaring the nodes.
Mm-hmm.
And this eclipse just kind of bring that story forward six months into the picture.
Sorry. Just, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So Mercury actually conjunct the fixed star Bellatrix. So this one is about a progressive interest in uncommon ideas. Also, Venus is not the only planet that's gone out of bounds. Venus is also gone out of bounds. Actually, Venus goes out of bounds in all 4 eclipses in 2021. So Venus in this particular case is conjunct the fixed star Alhena. So there can be a lot of material concerns. Love of pleasure and flattery, artistic and musical ability. It seems like we've all been just cooped up a lot of, in terms of going to concerts, none of that's going on. Social distancing and all that. And general fashions or social value. Since it's out of bound, we may actually push it into the extreme on a personal level. But I actually checked out what does Venus actually mean on mundane levels. This can be referring to what makes it pleasant for people to stay together that binds a nation into a state.
That's right.
When it goes out of bound, it means that there's a lot of fights between people's values and the state, actually. what bonds us as a state. Of course, Venus represents the arts, harmony, entertainment, and social pleasures. So that can be more like when a planet's out of bound is Uranian, and it can really be referring to things being brought to the internet more. So maybe that digital entertainment will take off really much more than what it is now.
Yeah.
A lot more online concerts. I think we've had that in 2020. And
by the way, if someone doesn't know what an out-of-bound planet is, I made a video a couple of weeks ago, so I'm going to put the link below. But out-of-bound planets talks about an extreme circumstances. So any planet which goes out of bound, which in that free lecture I've also shown how to figure that out for yourself. Basically, it's going to be talking about something when the king, you are out of the sight of the king, so you can't really be controlled. So as Donny said, Mercury and Venus are going to be quite dominant when it comes to extreme energies next year. And one of them is obviously about travel. The other one is about self-worth. Now we can see here in this chart, in this solar eclipse chart, and solar eclipse, by the way, means that we've got a new moon happening and the north node or the south node being extremely close by as well, within about 18 degrees. So of course, we're talking about north node, which is all about karmic experience. It's something we have to learn. And you can see in this world chart that it is all happening in the third house. Now, third house is all about communication, but it also rules travel, especially short distance travels, such as traveling by bus, car, bicycle, etc. And, you know, these solar eclipses, they are always forming a family. So the very last time when exactly the same happened, that was approximately in 2002-ish. So we would need to go back in the past a little bit and then see what happened in 2002. But as I said, third house is pretty much about the commuting. And in mundane astrology, actually, it talks about the cities and the countries. Because we've got such a strong element in the third house, I feel like the travel restrictions in some countries are definitely going to be kept on. And yes, I completely agree with Donny. It is how we interact with others, how communities come together, how the traffic is blocked out. And it looks like we're going to have to spend more time learning something about gathering together, being you know, being part of the local community. At the same time, the third house also rules the young people and something to do with the primary education. So this could actually show that the young people, the people who go to school, gonna have to reform the way they study. By the way, when it comes to the old astrology, they say that fifth house rules the school. I believe that third house is something to do with the primary education, fifth house is the secondary, and the ninth house something to do with horses and something to do with the diploma work. So anyway, even if it was the case, the sun would be ruling the fifth house, which is in the third. So it's definitely something to do with the school system as well. And it looks like the school system is going to go through a huge transformation. Now, I would like to mention that at the same time, Saturn and Jupiter have already changed sign. And last time when they were in air signs, that was approximately 800 years ago. I did mention last year as well that it looks like the school system is going to get changed because 800 years ago, they introduced universities. It was more affordable to people, well, as much as they could afford it, of course. And it looks like this is going to get emphasized this year as well. Something to do with studies, a reform in that department. And probably it's going to cause quite loads of confusion as well, because as Donny said, it's going to be squaring, the energy is going to be squaring Neptune. And Neptune is the planet of confusion. I have no idea how I'm going to do that. And probably this is going to be a carryover from 2020. We've already seen that people were homeschooling, the parents were anxious because they didn't even know what to teach them. So yes, definitely this online gathering is going to be a lot more important coming up for us. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to put my.
But Neptune is also anything that's mystical and has a magical meaning. So I wonder if like schools will be more open to, because I know locally, at least here in Singapore, there's actually a diploma in feng shui, believe it or not. And maybe that could be like moving forward. I mean, we're already in this like age of Aquarius with that December 21st conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn. And it's going to conjunct in air signs for the next like quarter of a millennium, about 250 years. So I'm thinking also this square can mean like the beginning of like perhaps introducing more like esoteric topics into school systems and teaching that out as well.
That's right. I do believe that this is going to be kind of the next 20 years of astrology. So we're going to start seeing some development. I also would like to mention that eclipses, either lunar or solar eclipses, there is a little bit of a difference between. The solar eclipses are the new moons and the lunar eclipses are something to do with the full moons. But anyway, what I would have liked to say is that this is something which we have to experience. Now, you can see in this chart actually that Saturn is also trining the energy, and that's from the 11th house. And 11th house in mundane astrology is going to be something to do with, first of all, social gathering, something to do with the masses, society as the whole. So I feel like, again, maybe we're going to start seeing some type of possibility for social gathering for the youth. Maybe they're going to be standing up. To be honest, I'm already seeing with this Pluto-Mars square, there are possible protests going on this year, which can actually go forward in the future as well. And the reason being is because we've already experienced this Gemini and Sagittarius axis with the eclipses in 2020 as well. So it is something which is going forward. And 11th house naturally is a Uranian energy. And Uranus is all about rebel. It's all about something which needs to change, something which is bringing some type of up and down energy into the house, whatever it touches. So this time around, we've got Saturn, which is kind of, we know it's a planet of restriction, but at the same time, it's Aquarius, it's very liberating. So I feel like the school system is definitely going to take a huge turn from 2021 onwards. And on top of that, with the eclipses, it's never kind of the fact that it's going to be manifesting immediately. Usually it happens in the following 18 months when there is a culmination point. That's how I would call basically this 18-month period. So usually within 9 months, we experience some type of blockages coming up because the sun and the moon going to start squaring each other within 9 months. And then after it's going to be in opposition, which is all about collecting the rewards. So whatever project in regards to education going to start, most probably that's going to get sorted by approximately about 2023.
I actually checked what is the culmination point, like you mentioned, like the full moon that's attached to this eclipse, and it's going to culminate on 8th of December of 2022.
Okay, so just the very end of 2022. Yes, that's right. Okay, and you mentioned 2 fixed stars. What exactly they mean?
Actually, like what I've mentioned about a Mercury conjunct Bellatrix, which can be progressive ideas, which is very interesting because you mentioned that trine and sextile of Sun and Moon and the nodes towards Saturn in Aquarius, and it's in the 11th house. This made me kind of think also about, because 11th house rules institutions the government needs in order to govern. So it actually is about the legislature too. And
Yeah.
Saturn is all about law abiding, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So passing of some new laws regarding that, I'm not sure whether it's gonna benefit the people because it's Saturn. Saturn is Saturn. It's also relevant to foreign affairs, where it rules like countries with more distant connections. Alliances between countries is also 11th house. So there can be like a reshuffling or a rewiring of sorts around Uranian or Aquarian energy. And lastly, it also is about society's collective long-term hopes, wishes, ambitions, and ideals.
Yeah.
So setting that in motion, Saturn, and grounding it, Saturn, into reality.
Yeah.
So, okay, go back to the fixed stars. So Venus out of bound was it in Cancer?
Yeah, that's right.
In Cancer, also a feminine sign, conjunct Alhina, I've mentioned before. So there's a lot of material concerns and social values and general fashions. It's just kind of shifting into something that's more Saturn in Aquarian. So I actually thought of like pre-loved items.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe like doing clothing swapping parties might be like more prevalent. We are spending less. We are not growing, hopefully we are not growing as much cotton as we are now. Like I've looked at a documentary regarding fast fashions. It just scares me how much water goes into growing cotton, which is very water consuming. And if we continue the way we are planting cotton, this and that, we might run out of water on Earth.
Yeah.
So maybe it's about really like having all those clubs, 11th house, Saturn, what we actually own physically, Uranus or Aquarian, swapping things around, things that we have already used. So I thought of that when I think of that Venus out of bound, conjunct Alhina, there's that. Also, Venus out of bound is parallel, not conjunct, parallel to Alcone, which is a Palladian fixed star. This can be slightly tricky because it talks about when Venus is parallel to Alcone, it talks about a poetic soul who will look for life with mystical or magical meaning. And it's uncanny that the solar eclipse also square Neptune. So it's almost like we are trying to ground an ideal over here, or we're trying to live a more spiritual life, so to speak. Or maybe this pandemic has taught us, how to talk to ourselves better.
Yeah.
Because we've all been locked in our house and people are going crazy. But I find that, I actually secretly enjoy this pandemic because life has always been go, go, go all the while. And now we just kind of like, it just kind of shuts us in a way to actually talk to ourselves and what is our relationship with ourselves.
I
Now,
would
I've known
also
myself
like
much
to
more.
mention. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. I've actually known myself much more this year than I ever did in like how many decades?
I would
Also,
also like to mention that, Venus, which you said it's out of bound, and it is an energy like when, let's say, Venus would be in conjunction with Uranus. So it's all about the ups and downs, and it is placed in the fourth house. And fourth house rules in mundane astrology the nation's natural resources.
border control.
Border control, agriculture, minerals, landed properties, usually peace overall. And this out of bound Venus could really indicate that people are not going to be peaceful. It could indicate that unfortunately, some part of the world might start running out heavily some of their natural minerals, and it could cause, unfortunately, in the future, some type of bigger migrations. Also, fourth house, interestingly enough, talks about the political stability of countries, and this Venus here, again, which is all about, which we said, out of bound, could unfortunately go to the extremes. Some of the countries, for me, seem to be in that. And this is also shown by Uranus and Black Moon Lilith, which is going to be forming a conjunction in the sign of Taurus somewhere around March, April time. So to be frank, I'm expecting again something to do with the financial times. And sorry, I made a mistake. It wasn't in 2002, but this solar eclipse family was very present in 2008 as well. This is, by the way, we call them Saros family eclipses. And this also was present in 2008 when we had a financial collapse. Now the Black Moon Lilith, which is the darker side of things, which is the shadow self, we can call it that way, is going to be forming a conjunction with Uranus, which is pretty much about the nation's wealth, the nation's status, the nation's relationship within the country and its neighbors. And Black Moon Lilith really can indicate that we want to go to different countries to get natural resources, because I feel like some countries are financially not going to be stable whatsoever.
I'm also thinking that because Venus is in the sign of the moon.
Yeah.
And if I go by rulership, like, Venus is ruled by the moon. Moon is ruled by out of bound Mercury.
Yeah.
In its own sign, and it's in retrograde. I was just thinking that Venus is ruling the women in general in society. Women in the country, so to speak. So I wonder if there's more like potential female figures in politics that's going to rise as well.
Oh, yeah, that's possible as well. Well, we're going to have a very interesting topic coming up very shortly, who is going to be winning the election. And I'm going to be back with that video next week. I've already put together a material, so look out for that. Great. Do you have anything else to share on this solar eclipse for us?
I've actually just did like a, what do you call that? A rulership tree.
Yeah.
Actually, like go by rulership of like, how I did earlier with like what planet is ruled by what planet. And 3 planets are in their own signs, Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter. And when I talk about, when we talk about Mercury and Jupiter, they are talking about the ruling and middle class of society. Saturn rules the working class. So when we talk about Saturn being linked to this solar eclipse, therefore issues of the working class will come into sharp focus. And are there going to be any legislation to protect the working class that's going to come in 11th house legislation?
Interesting to say that. Interesting that you say that, because when I looked at, the next solar eclipse chart, which is going to be taking place on the 4th of December, you can see how much 9th house interest we've got there. It's going to be packed with, again, very interestingly enough, all the planets which participated in the 3rd house, actually they will be in the 9th house. So the sun and the moon, and we also have got Mercury there, which previously all three were in the 3rd house. So clearly next year, the 3rd and the 9th house axis is going to be extremely important, which I said is going to be about immigration, trying to flee away, something to do with the border of the countries. I feel like people want to migrate to different places, as well as this is the communication and the travel access. So, and on top of it, because you mentioned the ninth house, that's something with the judicial system of a country. So I feel like there are going to be still regulations around how to travel. Maybe you're going to have an additional document apart from your passport if you want to travel to a different country. Ninth house also talks about the morality of the country. Now, because we're talking about the stellium here, and the stellium usually is a concentrated, most of the times it's frustrating. People seem to be frustrated about whatever restriction the government is going to be coming up. But at the same time, third and ninth house also talks about the development of countries. So I feel like some of the countries will definitely put money into developing their travel, the ways of traveling. For instance, maybe I can imagine some faster trains or faster ways of traveling by plane and all those type of things. So how do you feel about the solar eclipse taking place in December?
Can we actually just finish off like the one in June? Because I find I got one more thing to.
Yeah, sure.
Because when I think about Venus out of bound, right, it's also about farming and farmers.
Okay.
Yes, especially in the sign of food, Cancer. Venus also rules locusts. Insects we've got, that has a united consciousness. It makes me wonder, because as we go back to the rulership again, like Venus is ruled by the moon and moon is ruled by Mercury, that's retrograde and out of bounds and its own sign. I wonder if we'll have a lot more insect and locust infestations throughout the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
And that will really be about scarcity of food. And when we talk about the year-long square between Saturn and Uranus in Taurus, and this Saturn, which is in the 11th house, is highlighted by this nodal axis.
Yeah.
And it makes me think that there's going to be some vertical integration of existing food supply chains, which is very much about that Saturn square Uranus energy. And since the nodes are in the third and ninth house are also about selling and advertising.
Yeah, that's right.
Third house is also our everyday environment. Maybe it's a message that's telling us, like, don't let the smaller mom and pop shops that's around the street to close. Hey, imagine next time buying all our groceries from Amazon or Walmart or whatever equivalent huge supermarket chains that's going to have jacked up prices. Because in the background, I do see with that Venus and Mercury out of bound is that food prices are going to soar. That will be a constant theme throughout this 2021 period into when the nodes change sign into the Scorpio Taurus axis in 2022 onwards for another 18 months, 19 months. So, really spend your money wisely.
Yeah.
And support your mom and pop shops, to prevent them from closing, because it would just kind of give the big corporations, Saturn in Aquarius in the 11th house, that much more power to control even like the food that you eat, Uranus and Taurus.
I also believe that this Venus could talk about the fact that people are going to be going back to agriculture. As I said, fourth house does rule that. So they probably going to produce their own food because there is not going to be other ways to do so eventually. And as I said, this eclipse family tends to be working out in the next 18 months or the next 19 years. Okay, so we pretty much talking about longer run type of events, especially because Saturn, which is trining this energy, is from the 11th house, which is all about your long-term goals. So what is the long-term goal of a country? of a society. So it really indicates to me that we're going to go back to the basics. People are going to be gardening, people are going to be producing their own food, or people are going to be buying, I don't know, tomatoes from each other. Very funny actually, because one of my very good friend of mine, she actually started buying all her vegetables on Facebook um, marketplace. And in the local community, people are advertising their tomatoes. She bought chestnut, red peppers, and all these type of things. And then they deliver it to her home. And it's a lot cheaper as well. And then it's homemade and so forth. So I would not be shocked if this started to get more and more important for people. You spoke about this Mercury quite a lot, but Mercury is a natural ruler of the sixth house. And being out of bound, sixth house is all about your lifestyle. So clearly people's attitude and lifestyle are going to be changing quite a lot. Of course,
Going more
sixth house
online.
is, pardon?
Going more online.
That's
Autobound.
right. Probably they're going to be extremely cautious about the health. Sixth house, by the way, and as well as Mercury, does talk about countries' health of the nation. And because this Mercury, unfortunately, is burned by the sun and it's outbound as well. So some of the health industry, some of the healthcare system seems to me to be collapsed as well. So it looks to me that they have to come up with some new systems here as well. And probably they will, because Saturn is trining it. And Saturn is always about regulating energy. So there are going to be new ways of pension, in my opinion, and there is going to be a new way of fixing the healthcare issues as well. So such as, for instance, I wouldn't be shocked if they started increasing some of the doctors' wages also, because 11th house is something to do with wages, what we can earn in corporate world.
I'm also thinking that with that, this particular eclipse squaring Neptune is also refugees. So the refugee situation might be really be in the talks.
Yeah, going to the extremes.
And knowing that the nodes are trining and sextiling Saturn in Aquarius, maybe 11th house legislation, having legislation that protects local employment, more employment laws, or maybe deploying those refugees that escape to your borders into other usable fields as well. That's what I got so far. Oh, and also North Node is conjunct Aldebaran.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So
can you just talk about Aldebaran a little bit, if people don't know
when North Node conjunct Aldebaran is a fixed star that's really in the constellation of Taurus, but tropical, it's, in the middle degrees of Gemini. And when the North Node conjuncts there, it's about the overall mundane theme of a time for strong leadership. Because it's maybe we are searching for that strong political leader, because we feel that the current leadership in the world is kind of, questionable.
Yeah.
and South Node is actually conjunct Antares, which is another important fixed star. So when the South Node conjunct Antares is about seeing the struggles of the masses to understand or work with large groups, so we all unite.
Yeah.
It's very fitting that the South Node actually formed a sextile to Saturn in Aquarius to come as a group or community together. Very much the spirit of the age of Aquarius. To focus on the small, and in doing in doing so, focusing on the smaller issues, review the larger issues. It also represents a tipping point of sorts in our evolutionary cycle. And a small action can cause everything to change. So it's like a volatile time, so to speak.
You know, if we really went into this topic, then I would also say that this out-of-bound Venus is also talking about the banking system.
Yes.
And by having Black Moon Lilith, Uranus, and Venus out of bound, this could indicate some of the country's banking system to be collapsing. So I think we are going towards an online shopping system anyway.
Squaring Neptune, right? The Uranus banking reform.
Exactly. And we do need to know that Neptune actually in financial astrology rules the currencies. So this could really indicate something to do with the nation's currencies as well, which could be majorly dropping. I would put that somewhere around February and April time, to be frank. I think it's going to be more present in the first half of 2021.
Would you actually agree that because Neptune and Jupiter are both in their own home signs?
That's right, yeah.
And they are both going to inflate, hyperinflate. I think there's going to be a hyperinflation of our currencies.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Okay, I'm ready for December.
Let's move on to, then let's have a look at the solar eclipse in 2021, December.
Another interesting one.
Another interesting one. Yes. So what do you feel about 2021 December eclipse?
First of all, Venus is also out of bound. Anyway, Venus is out of bound in all 4 eclipses in 2021. And there's only 4 signs in which any planet can go out of bound, which is Gemini Sag axis and Cancer Capricorn axis. So it's no surprise. And Mercury, the first thing I check are the fixed stars because it applies more to the mundane kind of energies. And Mercury here is conjunct fixed star Facies, Facies. And this one talks about actually a pessimistic attitude. One who is judged or speaks harshly, news of aggression or harsh actions as well.
Yeah.
I've also checked Mars because Mars in Scorpio is pretty strong in this chart, and it's conjunct fixed star Agena, Agena, and it represents a time or a single event that can obsess the whole population. So there's something major that's about to cook or cooking. Last but not least, North Node is parallel to fixed star Zosma, Zosma, and this one is more of like an unfortunate fixed star as well. So it can mean like suffering in one's community.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, this one is kind of, I'm a bit iffy about this. And this is also the eclipse where the nodes will be finishing its run in Gemini Sag axis. Yeah, I think that's what I have for now. How about
what
you?
I can see here is a very strong 9th house interest. So what we spoke about in the 3rd house meta, it looks like towards the end of the year and 2022, it's going to get carried through. Because 9th house is also something, a communicational axis. It talks more about morality, religion, even the diplomats or foreign missions. So for me, maybe this 9th house energy, especially going to be talking about what type of legislation they are going to bring alive in regards to foreign matters, traveling, trading, and so forth. Unfortunately, again, we seem to be having some type of out-of-bound energies, which, as we said, they are extreme circumstances they mean. And this seems to be a kind of a setback for me. What I can see here, looking at that Venus, which is the nature of how much you want to be spending money, and it's in a restricted sign. So I feel like because the 10th and the 4th house axis is so much to do properties, Therefore, people are going to be trying to sell their properties a lot more because of having financial restrictions. But also the 10th house is so much to do with the executives, the parliament, actually the government, the foreign trade. We seem to be seeing some type of restrictions there as well. I feel like some bigger companies are actually going to be closing down, closing some of their outlets down. And I can also imagine that the working time regulation is going to be changing as well with this Venus in Capricorn in the 10th house plus the 9th house energies all together.
I'm also thinking about that Mercury, because it's approaching to square Neptune in the 12th house. People are actually moving, people are selling their house and moving out further and further into the suburbs.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
So lesser and lesser
absolutely.
people will be like, the idea of having metropolis is in the sign of Leo.
Yeah.
And now in the age of Aquarius, so a lot of decentralization.
Yeah, that's right. You know, you are absolutely right, I think, because as we said, the 3rd and the 9th house, so much to do with transportation and communication, as well as the cities, the cosmopolitan cities, especially the 9th house is the cosmopolitan cities of a country. So the overpopulated, the inhabited area of a country. And I can imagine that people are going to try to buy their properties somewhere in the countryside to have a lot more peaceful environment around them. And of course, that Venus this time around is opposing the 4th house. So this is something where people might not be feeling um, um, peaceful about their environment. So there seems to be a craving for the possibility of, you know, of being able to have a nice environment around them. 10th house is also going to be talking about your jobs. What type of job we are having. Now, this could really much indicate for us, unfortunately, that there is going to be a restriction when it comes to work situations. I think they're going to cut huge amount of numbers at the workplaces, and Capricorn is the sign of responsibility. So there's going to be an increased responsibility going on, which I feel like it's going to be quite a important period for plenty of us.
And if I actually see that Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius in the 11th house and Neptune in 12th, I can't help but think that there's even going to be an accelerated retrenchment.
Yeah.
And it kind of takes us back to the previous eclipse in middle of June. Whether are there going to be legislation for the people in terms of employment protection, or is it just going to be large corporations' financial interest, which is 10 and 11 house?
Yeah, and I find interesting Mars as well in the 8th house, you know, because 8th house is going to rule any type of money which is not yours. So we're talking about other people's money, we're talking about the debts, we're talking about what a country owes to others, what we owe to the bank, the loans we take or give to others, and of course the taxes as well. So I don't necessarily like Mars being there, to be honest, because this could really talk about that the tax might be getting increased. People not going to necessarily like it. The VAT belongs here as well. And unfortunately, even Mars is, and the 8th house is pretty much associated with murder, terror attacks, shootings. And I think we're going to see another period of time when these are coming back in the next 18 months into our lives. We're going to see some terror attacks happening, unfortunately. And I also believe that because that Mars is pretty much squaring Jupiter here. And Jupiter rules the ninth house, which is, as we said, the moral of a country, as well as something to do with the justice system. So yeah, and eighth house also tends to be popping up when there is a kind of, when people feel oppressed, suppressed, and also it pops up when there is an inequality going on within the nation. You know, just to summarize on these two solar eclipses, and then we're going to come back with a video for you to see how the lunar eclipses are going to affect us.
Yeah.
But I would say that, you know, I don't think with 2020, ending 2020, things are going to slow down for us. The 2021 seems to be as serious as 2020. However, most probably you're going to feel a kind of release in some of the departments, such as travels, but it's going to be regulated a lot. You're going to have to pass a test, for instance, so you're going to have an additional doctor. I just looked into, for instance, the puppy needs to have if I want to travel with the puppy needs to have a certificate from the doctor that the dog is healthy. So I can imagine something like that happening to the humankind as well.
So quarantine papers become more important.
Pardon me?
Quarantine papers.
Yes, exactly. Or the passport control might be getting a lot stricter than ever before. So how would you summarize these two solar eclipses?
Can I just touch a bit more on this 4th December, because you just tickled my fancy with that Mars sextile Venus and Pluto.
Yeah, sure.
For this particular, because Mars in the 8th house is all about financial relations and international finance, multinational and transnational corporations. It also rules foreign investment in the nation. So I wonder if there's going to be like a whole reshuffling.
Mm-hmm.
And when foreign investment, which is 8th house, is going through that reshuffling action, people who are staying in the country and paying taxes are about to like experience an increase in taxes charged to their name. So when I think about Mars in the 8th, it's like a money grab from other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a money grab. And when it's sextiling Venus is actually in shadow. It's about to go retrograde in Capricorn next year. I think it's going to station at 26 or 27 of Capricorn, which is conjunct Pluto.
Yeah.
So this eclipse is like the prelude of that Venus in shadow period, about to station and go retrograde and conjunct Pluto, like a few weeks later. And the Pluto is very important because, if I'm not wrong, the Sibley chart, which is the USA's birth chart, a reliable source, is on 27 of Capricorn.
Yeah, that's right.
And Venus is going to pass over there 3 times. And Pluto is very close there, so the USA is going through a Pluto return.
Yeah, that's right.
So I wonder if this time also can mean that global taxes are going to increase because of Venus currency of the USA crashing.
Yeah, and you know, on top of that, I would also love to mention then that the fated axis, such as North Node and the South Node, are really coming to an end of a cycle as well. So it's on 1 degree, it's almost on 0 degree, really. So, which is just indicating for us that a new chapter is going to be starting in our life. And of course, this is something to do with 9th house energies, which is shipping, traffic, airplane industry. There are going to be some major changes coming in the long distance and international travels related matters.
Also, Mars and Saturn are in their own signs in this eclipse.
Yeah.
So when I combine Mars and Saturn in relation to the class in society, Mars and Saturn rules the working class. So the working class are really going to get really impacted by this eclipse, probably like, the hyperinflation that we just touched on.
Yeah.
And possibly the US dollar I just mentioned, like going downhill. Because if you think about it, any world's reserve currency in the past, like the Dutch guilders or the British pounds, they've all like go through a cycle and it just goes down.
Yeah.
And currently the US dollar with this Venus retrograde, I'm not sure whether like as we approach 2022 past this eclipse in late 2021, whether it'll go through like a massive depreciation. And you'll change kind of how we, like how to call it, how the on a global level, how currency actually moves. Is it going to be still denominated in terms of US dollars base currency, or is it going to be something else?
In my opinion, because as I said, Neptune rules the currencies, and Neptune is going to change sign in the next 4 years. We're gonna see some shift in the currency department, as I mentioned in the last year's video as well. Unfortunately, Neptune is still holding on because it's in rulership. And by the way, in mundane astrology, we're going to be using the transgenerational planets as rulers as well, because they are affecting a whole society. And once Neptune is going to be shifting into Aries, definitely I'm seeing financial problems around 2026, 27. But anyway, we're going to come back on that with the next video. Sure. Great. Well, I mean, thank you very much, Donny, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me here.
We're going to come back and discuss the two lunar eclipses separately. Most probably that's a lot more digestible than going through all four at the same time. Because as you can see, there are a lot to mention about them.
Yeah. Yes.
So
just one question though.
Yeah.
When Neptune enters Aries, Saturn is going to conjunct that at the same time.
That's right. Yeah.
What is your take on that? Just like, in summary.
As I said, I think it's going to cause restrictions in the financial world. And that's why I'm seeing something to do 2026, 27, a major financial crisis situation in the world.
Right. Okay. Okay.
I think we're just seeing at the moment very
it's like
blinking type of energies of what is to come within about 5-6 years.
It's like 10-part series, and now we are just at episode 1.
That's right. Exactly.
All right. Okay.
All right. See you guys later. And don't forget to subscribe, press like, give us some love, and then we will be back shortly with the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.